Good evening and welcome to Third Church of Christ Scientist of New York City. Let's begin the meeting with singing. Hymn number 43. The music is titled Abendlied by Franz Schubert, that means evening song, and the words are adapted from a poem by William Chatterton Dix. Come unto me, ye weary, and I will give you rest. O tender words of Jesus, which come to hearts oppressed. They tell of benediction, of pardon, grace, and peace, of joy that hath no ending, of love which cannot cease. Hymn number 43. I'll read from the Bible and from the Christian Science textbook, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, by Mary Baker Eddy. The topic of this evening's readings is peace. The Bible. Isaiah. The work of righteousness shall be peace, and the effect of righteousness, quietness and assurance forever. And my people shall dwell in a peaceable habitation, and in sure dwellings, and in quiet resting places. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord, and shall make him of quick understanding in the fear of the Lord. And he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth. And righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his reins. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. Mark. Jesus withdrew himself with his disciples to the sea, and a great multitude from Galilee followed him, and from Judea. And he began again to teach by the seaside, and there was gathered unto him a great multitude, so that he entered into a ship and sat in the sea, and the whole multitude was by the sea on the land. And the same day, when the even was come, he saith unto them, Let us pass over unto the other side. And when they had sent away the multitude, they took him even as he was in the ship. And there were also with him other little ships. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship, so that it was now full. And he was in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow. And they awake him, and say unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish? And he arose, and rebuked the wind, and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said unto them, Why are ye so fearful? How is it that ye have no faith? And they feared exceedingly, and said one to another, What manner of man is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? And they came over unto the other side of the sea, into the country of the Gadarenes. And when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs. And no man could bind him, no, not with chains, because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken in pieces. Neither could any man tame him. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stones. But when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran and worshipped him, and cried with a loud voice, and said, What have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of the Most High God? I adjure thee by God that thou torment me not. For he said unto him, Come out of the man, thou unclean spirit. And he asked him, What is thy name? And he answered, saying, My name is Legion, for we are many. And he besought him much that he would not send them away out of the country. Now there was there, nigh unto the mountains, a great herd of swine feeding. And all the devils besought him, saying, Send us into the swine, that we may enter into them. And forthwith Jesus gave them leave. And the unclean spirits went out and entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea. They were about 2,000, and were choked in the sea. And they that fed the swine fled, and told it in the city and in the country. And they went out to see what it was that was done. And they come to Jesus, and see him that was possessed with the devil, and had the legion, sitting, and clothed, and in his right mind. Matthew. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. John. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. Hitherto have ye asked nothing in my name. Ask, and ye shall receive, that your joy may be full. These things have I spoken unto you in Proverbs. But the time cometh, when I shall no more speak unto you in Proverbs, but I shall show you plainly of the Father. At that day ye shall ask in my name, and I say not unto you that I will pray the Father for you, for the Father himself loveth you, because ye have loved me, and have believed that I came out from God. I came forth from the Father, and am come into the world. Again I leave the world, and go to the Father. His disciples said unto him, Lo, now speakest thou plainly, and speakest no proverb. Now are we sure that thou knowest all things, and needest not that any man should ask thee. By this we believe that thou camest forth from God. Jesus answered them, Do ye now believe? Behold, the hour cometh, yea, is now come, that ye shall be scattered, every man to his own, and shall leave me alone. And yet I am not alone, because the Father is with me. These things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. In the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. And correlative passages from Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. Today, the healing power of truth is widely demonstrated as an immanent eternal science instead of a phenomenal exhibition. Its appearing is the coming anew of the gospel of on earth peace, goodwill toward men. This coming, as was promised by the Master, is for its establishment as a permanent dispensation among men. But the mission of Christian Science now, as in the time of its earlier demonstration, is not primarily one of physical healing. Now, as then, signs and wonders are wrought in the metaphysical healing of physical disease. But these signs are only to demonstrate its divine origin, to attest the reality of the higher mission of the Christ power to take away the sins of the world. If men understood their real spiritual source to be all blessedness, they would struggle for recourse to the spiritual and be at peace. But the deeper the error into which mortal mind is plunged, the more intense the opposition to spirituality, till error yields to truth. The poor, suffering heart needs its rightful nutriment, such as peace, patience in tribulation, and a priceless sense of the dear Father's loving kindness. Our Heavenly Father, divine love, demands that all men should follow the example of our Master and his apostles, and not merely worship his personality. It is sad that the phrase divine service has come so generally to mean public worship instead of daily deeds. The nature of Christianity is peaceful and blessed, but in order to enter into the kingdom, the anchor of hope must be cast beyond the veil of matter into the Shekinah into which Jesus has passed before us. And this advance beyond matter must come through the joys and triumphs of the righteous, as well as through their sorrows and afflictions. Like our Master, we must depart from material sense into the spiritual sense of being. The God-inspired walk calmly on, though it be with bleeding footprints, and in the hereafter they will reap what they now sow. The pampered hypocrite may have a flowery pathway here, but he cannot forever break the golden rule and escape the penalty due. The proofs of truth, life, and love which Jesus gave by casting out error and healing the sick completed his earthly mission. But in the Christian church, this demonstration of healing was early lost, about 3 centuries after the crucifixion. No ancient school of philosophy, materia medica, or scholastic theology ever taught or demonstrated the divine healing of absolute science. Jesus foresaw the reception Christian Science would have before it was understood. But this foreknowledge hindered him not. He fulfilled his God mission and then sat down at the right hand of the Father. This material world is even now becoming the arena for conflicting forces. On one side, there will be discord and dismay. On the other side, there will be science and peace. The breaking up of material beliefs may seem to be famine, pestilence, want and woe, sin, sickness, and death, which assume new phases until their nothingness appears. These disturbances will continue until the end of error, when all discord will be swallowed up in spiritual truth. Glory be to God, and peace to the struggling hearts. Christ hath rolled away the stone from the door of human hope and faith, and through the revelation and demonstration of life in God, hath elevated them to possible at-one-ment with the spiritual idea of man and his divine principle, love. The effects of Christian Science are not so much seen as felt. It is the still, small voice of truth uttering itself. We are either turning away from this utterance or we are listening to it and going up higher. Willingness to become as a little child and to leave the old for the new renders thought receptive of the advanced idea. Gladness to leave the false landmarks and joy to see them disappear. This disposition helps to precipitate the ultimate harmony. The purification of sense and self is a proof of progress. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Unless the harmony and immortality of man are becoming more apparent, we are not gaining the true idea of God, and the body will reflect what governs it, whether it be truth or error, understanding or belief, spirit or matter. Therefore, acquaint now thyself with him, and be at peace. Let's pray together silently for a few moments, and then pray aloud together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Let's sing hymn number 136. I love thy way of freedom, Lord. To serve thee is my choice. In thy clear light of truth I rise, and listening for thy voice, I hear thy promise, old and new, that bids all fear to cease. My presence still shall go with thee, and I will give thee peace. Hymn number 136. This church is a branch of the Mother Church, the first Church of Christ Scientist in Boston, Massachusetts. We hold Sunday services at 11 a.m. and Wednesday testimony meetings at 7:30 p.m. We also have services in Spanish, Sundays at 1 p.m. and Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m. All services are now held online and in person. All are welcome. Third Church offers Sunday school classes online and in person for children and teens. These free 1-hour classes will be held each Sunday. At Sunday school, students learn how much God loves them and cares for them. They also learn about the Bible characters and lessons and the healing power of prayer. For more information on times and classes, please send us an email, thirdchurch@thirdchurchnyc.com. Third Church maintains a reading room on the lower level of this building. The reading room provides a quiet place for prayer and study, and all are welcome. Here you may purchase books and recordings on Christian Science. The reading room has the latest issues of the Christian Science Monitor, an award-winning international news weekly available to read or purchase. Reading room hours are Monday through Friday from 1 to 4 p.m. This fall, Third Church of Christ Scientist, this church, and other Christian Science churches in New York and New Jersey invite you to a series of weekly Saturday evening inspirational radio talks throughout October and November from 7:05 p.m. to 8 p.m. on WOR 710 AM radio and WOR710.com. The series, Spiritual Solutions for Today's Challenges, will help you discover practical spirituality and its connection to improving daily life. The series will address topics such as spiritual discovery in a time of upheaval, why everyone is needed, prayer and well-being, a spiritual adventure, and experiencing heaven now, to name a few. The experienced, internationally based speakers are members of the Christian Science Board of Lectureship. Replays of each talk will be available until December 3rd. Visit our website at thirdchurchnyc.com for more details and for links to the programs. The next radio lecture on Saturday, October 15th, Love Your Enemies, is by Julia Nessie Tetro, CSB, and is sponsored by the Montclair, New Jersey Church. On Tuesday, October 25th at 7 p.m., 10th Church, New York City, will host a free in-person talk by Nicole Virgil, CS, titled, Be Set Free. Music begins at 6:45 p.m. This talk will focus on living a life of liberty, which is spiritual, purposeful, unburdened, and given to all. For more information, visit their website at 10thchurchnyc.com. 10th Church is located at 171 McDougal Street. Christian Science is practical, and it heals. Our meeting is now open for all to share experiences of healing and spiritual insights that prove God's ever-presence and power in their lives. If you are listening by telephone and would like to speak, press *6 and wait until your line is unmuted. Please speak directly into the microphone of your telephone. Your message will be easier to hear if you do not use the speakerphone. If you're watching via Zoom, you can choose the raise your hand icon or unmute yourself and speak.
I love that when Jesus asked the devils, the demons, where they would like to be cast out, they said, into a herd of swine, which the Jews considered, and I guess still consider, to be unclean animals. There's probably more than a little bit of the authorial hand in that sort of poetry. But whether that's true or not, I love the fact that the demon, which Mrs. Eddy at some point calls supposititious demons, are at home in the unclean and in the self-destructive, running off a cliff. 2 weeks ago, I think it was in the lesson on unreality, there was a citation from Science and Health that said something like Christian Science, properly understood, would disabuse the human mind of material beliefs, cast them out to make room for spiritual truth. Now, that is a paraphrase. But it was meaningful to me because of that term, disabuse. Material beliefs or finite beliefs, or beliefs that individuality can be cut up into a multitude of men, women, and children, a multitude of subjects and objects, is what abuses the human mind. And Christian Science, properly understood, brings to light the one God, in the one individuality, the one undivided being, which is infinitely and eternally reflected. One body, infinitely and eternally reflected. In Science and Philosophy and Miscellaneous Writings, Mrs. Eddy talks about from beginning to end of the Bible, there's one keynote, and that keynote is the prolonged tone of, I am the one God and there shall be none beside me. And it takes a lot of humility and giving up of personal sense, I find, to realize that there is one source and substance of being, which has to be logically perfect, otherwise it would be subject to destruction. It has to be perfect, it has to be infinite, it has to be eternal. And the result we see in this human picture, this human laboratory, is health, happiness, wealth, harmony with God, with ourselves, with our fellow man. And so I'm grateful that whichever way you look at the Bible, Christian Science casts a fresh light on these stories. Thanks for your readings.
Thank you.
Thank you for your readings from the desk. Right now, what's apparent to the senses is a war in the Ukraine, which captures the attention of many people. It seems to be an opposition to evil, an opposition to the rule of law. I had testified here before that I wondered how the people that lived during the time of the Second World War were able to maintain their spirituality and their hope and trust in God, and had the confidence in the presence of God. When I read the journals, articles from back then, there was no sense of being overwhelmed or having good tentative. Recently, I heard someone describe a healing of a Civil War soldier that had had bad wounds from the war and couldn't, other Christian Zionists couldn't heal. And the case was referred to Mrs. Eddy, and there was a quick healing. And they asked her, well, how did you pray for this person? What did you work? And how did you work? And the statement was, she said, well, I knew that the war didn't happen. And that was quite shocking to my thought. There was a discussion of never forget the trials and the tribulations. But I've come to recognize that which we should never forget is to defend ourselves daily against aggressive mental suggestion, and to accept the reality of a discord or circumstances beyond the control and the power of good is not how to work at all. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but the pulling down of strongholds of imaginations and discords. We work in thought, and the existence of that discord is only in thought. And to declare and realize and hold to the allness of good is to disabuse, as a speaker previously said, disabuse that what the material senses would tell us about reality and power, and reaffirm the allness and the presence of God, the kingdom of God, and the power of God. The definition of God in the Glossary of Science and Health talks of God being the all-knowing, the all-seeing, the all-acting, the all-wise, all-loving and eternal. Well, if that is the nature and the activity of God, then our reflection has got to also include all of those activities and qualities. And we exercise our spiritual faculties by standing at the door of thought. Mrs. Eddy said to stand porter at the door of thought, allowing only those conclusions which you want manifested. So we are involved in being, remembering and never forgetting to challenge the senses and not to be fascinated with the conflict of the war, but to hold in thought the power and the presence of God. I'd want to express gratitude also in an unrelated topic, that my wife and I had taken a trip recently, and we're with many different people, all different individualities and characters, and it was quite an eye-opening activity. And one of the people at this activity was so kind to us, so thoughtful and considerate, and took us for a trip to see the area at a time early in the morning. And it was just a very pleasant experience. And I thought how kindness traverses different people, that it's a common denominator for people of all different thoughts and orientations and ideas. And it was just universal good. And I just saw that was God with us, or Emmanuel, a very good experience, and very, very appreciated.
The last hymn, 136, I like to look at the sources. And the title, it's from an Irish melody entitled Heavenward. The lyrics, the words are a poem by Violet Hay, who wrote lyrics or words to several of the hymns in the Christian Science hymnal. And it's quite a beautiful poem. I love to sing the hymn, but sometimes I just like to read the words, and so I'll just read them. I love thy way of freedom, Lord, to serve thee is my choice. In thy clear light of truth I rise, and listening for thy voice, I hear thy promise, old and new, that bids all fear to cease. This is the promise. My presence still shall go with thee, and I will give thee peace. Though storm or discord cross my path, thy power is still my stay. Though human will and woe would check my upward soaring way, all unafraid I wait, the while thy angels bring release, for still thy presence is with me, and thou dost give me peace. I climb with joy the heights of mind, to soar o'er time and space. I yet shall know as I am known, and see thee face to face. Till time and space and fear are naught, my quest shall never cease. Thy presence ever goes with me, and thou dost give me peace. I love the idea that through all the trials, storms, or discords, as Jesus proved in the stilling of the storm and the healing of the Gadarene, through all that, he had a clear sense of the presence of God and the peace-giving tranquility of that consciousness. And in this hymn, it says, the quest shall never cease. Well, when I had class instruction in Christian Science, it was overwhelming to think that of the infinitude of divine mind, meaning that one could never know all that mind knows. But the fact that mind is infinite gives one infinite possibilities. And that's our life work, to reflect and to embody and characterize all the qualities that are divine mind and the other synonyms of God. My quest shall never cease, but throughout the quest, God's presence ever goes with us and gives us a true sense of peace so that we can rise above the turbulence that appears before us. And though it does appear to be real, waiting patiently and declaring the absolute power of God yields results.
Thank you for those peaceful thoughts. I was reminded today of the story of Moses and his journey, and starting with getting the children of Israel out of bondage and being there at the Red Sea and crying to God, saying, the enemy's coming, they're almost here, and there's the Red Sea before us, and him saying peacefully, don't cry to me, just raise your rod and part the sea and move forward. And all of the challenges in the wilderness, where he provided water from a rock, manna from above to feed them, and the clothes didn't wear out. And a lot of the children would see all of those series of demonstrations and probably come to a place of peace every once in a while. But that trial there towards the end, where they sent the spies into the city, and they came back and reported, oh no, these people are giants. We can't overcome this. And of course, we see the current situation that we have now as maybe as they did with those giants, with the powers that be, thinking that they are in control. And I could just imagine God nudging the hearts of those men and saying, but I am love. I am the most powerful in this situation, and reminding them, as we can view their mistakes now and see us maybe treating the situation and having a little more trust in God that they would have loved to have had at that moment, so that they could have avoided 40 more years of wandering in the desert. So that's a good story to be reminded of, to maintain the trust whenever everything around looks like it's not going to work out. Thank you for those encouraging words of peace.
Thank you. Thank you all for your testimonies, remarks, presence, and prayers during this meeting. Let's close with hymn number 263. The title of the hymn is Gladness, and its music is by Gustav Dubin. It's from a Swedish poem by J.O. Wallin, translated, of course. Only God can bring us gladness. Only God can give us peace. Joys are vain that end in sadness. Joy divine shall never cease. Mid the shade of want and sorrow, undisturbed our hearts rejoice. Patient, wait the brighter morrow. Faithful, heed the Father's voice. Hymn number 263.